For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top-level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. I'm a black belt under Master Pedro Sauer and Tony Rinaldi, and you're watching Professor's Corner. I decided to do this one live. It's actually easier than videoing it and then uploading it and all that kind of stuff. And I'll have to edit the title, but what we're talking about today specifically is Jiu-Jitsu for those over 40 who are trying to do it in a way that is safe and effective, and you're going to get results. And mainly this is for people who are starting at like late 30s, early 40s. If you've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 10, 15 years already and you're in your 40s, there's definitely some adjustments you're going to make. I've had to deal with some of them myself, but it's not it's not the same as if you start at that age. It's a pretty drastic difference. And of course, the lower the level of fitness that you have going into it, the more challenges you're going to have as you start. And I don't say that to dissuade you from doing it. And I don't say that to make it scary at all, because it shouldn't be frightening it to you. It should be exciting. But I just need to be honest with you that there are going to be some challenges, and kind of what are they. Now, before I go any further, I want to say that this video was kind of inspired by Dr. Mike Israetel from Renaissance Periodization. So make sure to go check out his page. If I remember, I'll put a link in the description for you. That would be the appropriate thing to do. But he was talking about lifting specifically for hypertrophy for people over the age of 40. And I thought, man, what a great subject to talk about for jiu-jitsu as well. And there's a lot of overlap. For those of you who don't know, my degree, I have a few of them, but one of them is in exercise physiology. So it's something I feel that I can speak about with some intelligence and a certain level of expertise, not only because of my degree, but also because of my experience, right? I am a person over 40. I've dealt with literally thousands of them. I wanted to make sure that word was correct, but it's thousands by now, over the last 20 years. And, I've seen mistakes made. I've seen people not taking advice. I've seen ego hit hard. And so these are just some things that you can do to help you if you're in that age group and you're trying to get better at jiu-jitsu. So, let's start with arrive early before the warm-up. So if possible, if you're at a school and the doors are open a little bit before, go in and warm up early. And let me be really clear with you, because this is something that a lot of people don't know. Stretching is not warming up. That's not warming up at all. In fact, it's the opposite. Warming up means that you increase your body temperature, your core body temperature, and your heart rate to a level commensurate with what your workout is going to be. And it's important that you do that, because you are more likely to get injured. And stretching beforehand does not reduce the likelihood of injury. So that's pretty well researched science at this point. Nothing's for sure, but we're pretty sure on that. And if you want to gain flexibility and stuff, the best time to do that is at the end of your workout when you're already very warm. So when you get there, warm up. Have a light sweat going on before your activities start. It is especially important for you if you are over the age of 40. That's a big thing. All right. Now, as a white belt, you should be training mainly for flow and skill development. And what do I mean by flow? I mean learning to move from one move to another technique, understanding how they connect. I know that everybody wants to know that they can defend themselves as early as possible. Here's the honest truth. That's going to take 6 months to a year to develop, maybe even longer. So the first part is learning the techniques and learning them intelligently. And the other half of this, the other component, again, if you haven't been training for a long time, is that you don't have a lot of the development in the synergies between your muscles to make these moves work effectively. If you just go rolling whole hog on your first couple nights, and you're just increasing the likelihood of injury. And the reason that matters is because jiu-jitsu is something you're probably not going to need, if ever, as far as self-defense goes, until you're a mark, right? So no one looks at the 250-pound jacked guy and says, that's the guy I'm going to rob, No one says that. So they wait until you're the 80-year-old who looks like a has-been. That's when they want to rob you. And so you want to make sure that you're able to train with longevity and for a long period of time. And that's going to take you putting the ego aside, training slow, training methodical, just worrying about flow, trying to not use any explosiveness. Not that you never can and you can't put it in there. You can, of course. But as you get older, you're not going to have as much anyway. And then on top of that, you want to be able to flow. You want to be able to lace moves together so that they make sense. Off balance this way, to throw that way, kazushi. Focus on those things. And you'll find that you get a lot farther with your jiu-jitsu with a lot fewer injuries. Now, the other part of that is, you're already in amazing shape. So that's the other thing. I'm already in amazing shape going in, so I know that I can go hard. That's still a mistake. It's awesome that you're in amazing shape. That's great. I'm glad, and don't change that. Keep that up. But you still aren't developed. And what I mean by that is there's ways of movement and the synergies required that can only be developed through the skill work of doing jiu-jitsu techniques. And that's the only way you're going to develop that. And you're also going to be very stiff. And the more stiff you are as you train, the more likelihood of injury, because you're going to fight positions that you shouldn't fight. Next thing you know, you've blown your ACL because you didn't know that they were moving and your leg was going to get twisted up, and you're just focused on being tense and not letting movement, and everything for you is resistance. And resistance is the lowest form of defense. So that's where most people get hurt, is when they're just purely resisting. Make sure that even if you're in amazing shape, that your main focus is on flow and learning the techniques, especially as a white belt. Now, I'm not saying never roll. Please don't misunderstand me. Certainly, you should roll. There should be types of rolls, and we're going to get into that. But you should be focused more on technique. And now start with short. Again, your own fitness level is going to determine this to some degree, but start with short rounds, 2 to 3 minutes. And it's like, well, what if coach put on 5-minute rounds and says, hey guys, let's go for 5 minutes. I think your coach is going to understand that you are, let's say you're 42, you haven't done activity in 20 years, and you're a little winded. Now, if your coach looks at you and you're sitting there, just breathing through your chest, not knowing how to breathe properly, all this stuff, and your coach looks at you and says, hey, keep moving. They either mean keep moving because they want you just to move for 5 minutes straight, which is good advice, or they don't know what the hell they're talking about if they're thinking that you should just roll through that, because you're just increasing your likelihood of injury by orders of magnitude the more exhausted you get. Take the time to breathe. So if it's a 5-minute round, do 3. And I mean, if you still feel good, great. Again, that goes back to you're already in great shape. But if you're exhausted, take your time. Get rest in there. Rest is just as important as work when it comes to working out. That is true whether it's lifting, whether it's running, or whether it's jiu-jitsu. Get rest. Let your body develop the way it should be, and slowly build up your stamina to these kinds of things. I think that that's something that a lot of people don't do well enough. And I've got a list here that I wrote. Of course you want to build up to 5 or 6 minutes, but again, I can't emphasize enough that you're more likely to get injured when you're tired. So just make sure that when you're getting exhausted, you're able to take a few moments, even if it's 30 seconds, 45 seconds, get your breathing back, decrease your heart rate, get back to where you can think straight, put frames in place, and get back to work. All right, now this is something that's true for everybody, but most of your training, primarily all of your training, 75% of it, should be positional training. So most of it should not be open rolls. And that's true. I don't care if you started 30 years ago and you're a 7th degree black belt now. Most of your stuff should be positional rolls, meaning that you're trying pass sweep. You're letting them start on your back and you're just trying to escape. All of these kinds of things are going to build you up, and they will help you last longer because you won't have to fight all these crazy transitions that are going on. Of course, there's times to roll. That's why I said 75%. But if you go watch any athletic endeavor, there's no sport out there where if you go watch their practices, they just do full games over and over and over again. Jiu-jitsu is the only one that does that. Wrestling doesn't do that. Baseball, basketball, football, none of them do that. None of them. Soccer, none of them. It's mostly skill work. It's mostly positional work. It's mostly situational work. Like, you know, they've scouted the defense and they know how the defense reacts to certain plays, and so they'll work that, you know, attacking that style of defense. You know, that's the kind of thing that all high level professionals do. And if you want to be the best you can be, you should mimic that to the best of your ability. Instead of sitting there saying, okay, let's do a 5-minute roll, and thinking, man, I'm going to try this from my guard and I'm going to try this from mount. And then you don't even see guard or mount because your guard gets passed in 3 seconds. And the next thing you know, you're on the bottom of side control and you roll over and they're on your back. And now you forgot what you were even supposed to be trying to do. Stop. Say, hey, I'm working my guard. Can we just do pass sweep? You know, I'm trying, you know, if you pass my guard or if I sweep you or submit you, then we start again. Anybody who says no to that is just dumb. I'm going to be honest. They just don't know what they're doing, and they should want to do that over and over again. It's the best kind of training. So those positional trainings, you know, King of the Hill style, however you guys want to run it, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. And that's the best thing that anybody can do for their training. So I highly recommend it. It's going to make your defense better too. If you feel comfortable getting out of side control because you've started there a million times, and you're more likely to try things from your guard, right? You're going to throw up that arm bar because if you miss, you know, I'll just escape side control, you know, no big deal. And don't be afraid to make that as granular as possible. Be like, hey, you know, you get to start with both legs controlled. I have frames in place. We say 1, 2, 3, go, and see if I can finish, see if I can get back to guard while you try to finish the pass. You know, if you want to play in those transitional spaces, you can still do that with positional drilling. It's very, very easy to do. And the fifth one that I have is, it's a challenge for a lot of people because Jiu-Jitsu is all about positional hierarchy, right? We know that we don't want to get knocked down to our back, or to our hips. We know that we don't want people to take our back. We know we don't want people to pass our guard. And as you get older, and there's a bigger gap of like speed and strength and everything that goes on, you need to learn not to fight the positional exchanges quite so heavily, especially when it comes to like sweeps and takedowns. I know that like there's a lot of guys out there saying, you know, don't accept the takedown. And we see that at high levels all the time. And it's amazing to watch. But those are high level athletes who do this for a living. They eat, sleep, and breathe jiu-jitsu. They train it 40 hours a week. They also lift. They also run. They have a whole regimen they do that goes along with everything you see on the YouTubes. So make sure that you understand that for every one of those you see, every guy you see do a cartwheel out of a takedown, there's about 90 videos from judo out there of guys just snapping their arms in half doing that. Same thing in wrestling. You know, people putting their hands down to stop a takedown and gravity just wins. You know, you've got 2 human beings coming down on top of that arm. You are not likely to stop it. And the older you are, the less likely you are to stop it. Learn good break falls, learn how to fall safely. Don't smack your head on the ground. And, you know, don't get your neck all torqued up. Keep looking at your training partners as you fall, and learn to just win the next position. Same, you know, if they're really, really, really heavy in side control, you know, and like, man, I can barely breathe. Give them the opening to mount, give them the opening to your back, and let them start to do that and escape the transition, as opposed to trying to just escape that tight position where it's real heavy and you can't move. I was talking to a female in my class earlier. She's 105 pounds and she's, I think, 56 years old. And she was like, hey, you know, these are great, but sometimes I literally just can't move people. Like, I can't get me out. And it's like, look, leverage only matters if the force at the end of the lever arm is enough to overcome the force that you're trying to move via the lever, right? That's the only time it matters. You know, at that point, if no matter what you do, you're 105 pounds, the best you can put is 105 pounds into it, and that doesn't move them, cool. Give them the opening to the next spot and know how to beat that. And she said she does that. She baits people into taking her back, and as they try to take her back, she kind of just flows out of that, and then she's back to her guard. And she's like, is that where her exact words were, I know that's not right. And I said, it's not that it's not right. It's that you're a brown belt. You know all the dangers that are going to happen there. It's not right for a white belt to do it because he doesn't know what's going on, right? He doesn't even know about back being taken, depending on like what kind of white belt we're talking about. Or, we beginner white belt, were you 10 classes in, or are we someone who's been around for, 17 months or something? So like, it's okay to break the rules once you understand the rules and you understand where the positions can go at the end of that. That's when you can give up your back. Watch Jeff Glover. He does did all kinds of crazy stuff. I haven't seen him compete in a long time, but there's all kinds of competitors out there who will give up positions and make tactical choices that maybe aren't the best, but they understand what the dangers are, that flow from those. So those are my top 5 hints or tips on kind of training past the age of 40. And the biggest thing, guys, the word I want you to keep in your mind is longevity. Keep training in a way that that you feel like, man, I could come back tomorrow and do this exactly like this and do it the following day and the following day and the following day. So that if you one day have 6-7 days a week to train, you feel like you could do that. If every time you get off the mat, like at the end of the night, you're like all those memes and you're like, oh, this hurts and oh, that hurts and beyond like the normal aches and pains from aging, you're doing something wrong. That's my opinion, guys. All right. What is your opinion, though? Let me know below. I'd love to hear see your comments and hear what you have to say. Guys, thanks for watching. I will talk to you later.